Item on our agenda is item number 9. It's a discussion on economic development. Mr. Leach?
Thank you, Mayor. All right, so I appreciate everybody, the delay we had on the executive session. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but a couple of things. You know, Chris and Kim and I in particular have been talking with Lindsay and Jack and other individuals interested in the future of the city of Vienna over the last, since this first proposal came from Lindsay in July. Too much time has gone by. My biggest fear about that, you know, is the grant opportunities we think need to be a big focus, but we haven't really been able to coalesce on a solution that we all agree upon at this point. So I put on the agenda with not a lot of warning and notice to people, and I mean, like I said, this has been my initiative. The city advocacy thing has been something that's been on my radar for a couple of years, and so in any event. So here's where I want to start. You know, yesterday, and we, of course, had the presentation by Christina, and we just heard Jack talk about the success and everything that's going on with this history of Vienna, West Virginia, and it's a fabulous book. You know, and so when I got that, and it was just coincident that yesterday it came to my attention, and I actually bought a signed copy, which I'm really excited about. And so, you know, we're nearing the end of my second term, and some of your first term in the city of Vienna, some of your many terms in the city of Vienna. We got an election coming up next year. And so, you know, as I sit there and I consider, I was like, where does this passion for what I'm trying to do come from? We all have the reasons that we're motivated, you know, and when I read this, you know, it reminded me a little bit about my own story, all right, that when Dr. Joseph Spencer was settling Vienna, my grandfather, Willis Leach, was settling Leachtown at the same time. I'm sure they knew each other. And my other grandfather, Henry Cooper, was settling in Mineral Wells. My family has been here since those days and have never left to my knowledge. More important to me, as I get these gray whiskers, my children are here and my grandchildren are here. And we all aspire to that too much. And I looked at the comprehensive plan and I see that the age cohort shows from 2000 to 2020, the biggest shrinkage that we've experienced is that 18 or 15 to 44 age range. That has to stop. You know, so I took a page out of Tom's playbook and I brought a prop. Anyone know why this is a silver shovel?
It used to be made in Parkersburg.
This is an Ames pony shovel, featherweight, tempered, Ames since 1774. But the interesting part of it to me, as interesting as Kim's phone, is what it says is the inscription. Russell J. Leach. Well, I'm James Russell Leach, and this is my grandfather's shovel. 36 years at O. Ames throughout the Depression, and my family's continued to do that. My other little thing I want to show you, because I'm very proud of this, and it has to do with my motivation in doing the things. So this is on my dad's side, and this is J.D. Leach, and probably about 1905. And that's his milk wagon. This is the J.D. Leach Dairy Company. And, you know, so these roots in West Virginia are interesting to me, more so probably than my kids, but as we get older, you know, we get more interested in this stuff. But what's more interesting to me is what's going on with my family today. Okay, so that's why I've taken the particular interest in this economic development initiative with the city of Vienna. So I'm gonna blow through this. I know at least Kim, Chris, Lindsay, Jack are all familiar. The economic development proposal that we got from Lindsay focuses primarily on what she does, is commercial, industrial. She can define it better than I can, but she has a lane, right? And the lanes that we're looking at, I think Lindsay would agree, are broader than what her typical function and role is in helping in economic development in Wood County and the Mid-Ohio Valley. Come on, talk to me. So I just put together, there's 3 areas I'm interested in, okay? And I think that we've been discussing. And so the first is business and economic. And I've identified this as areas of concern. And is that? Can you read
That's
that?
good. Yeah.
It's good from here, Jim.
Yeah,
Okay,
it looks
so I'm
good.
gonna go out here. So, basically, we see our downtown, quote, business district, okay? We've got dilapidated properties, we've got empty properties, we all agree it's underutilized and hopefully not at its highest best purpose. The other thing is the preservation of our existing commercial retail enterprises, because we know all the pressure that comes with brick and mortar with Amazon and everything else that's going on. The TIF and the advent of the box stores and demolition of the Sears store was a revitalization of the mall property, and that's great news for us. That brick and mortar we need to continue to support. And so we need to diversify and complement our existing business opportunities. It doesn't, at least to me, make sense to try to compete with already established entities that are thriving by trying to replicate that. So what other ways that could we enhance our economic impact in our city and not to the detriment of what already exists here? So I think these opportunities, these grants, everybody talks about this, and again, it's my biggest chagrin about the amount of time this has taken is what grant opportunities have we already let go by, right? But these grants had to do with infrastructure for big stuff for public utilities. They have to do with grants for recreational activities that we're talking about doing, what Jack's working on with respect to the amphitheater, and a myriad of, we don't know what's out there. I went to this grant school, I only made it one day, but Teresa and Rod also went, and my purpose in going was not to start writing grants. It's not something you do overnight. It's not filling out the application. It's the connections, it's the resources, it's the networking it takes to be successful in that arena. But I wanted to understand more about it, and I wanted to get the resources that came with that training, and I did. And they gave us, I got an email with 27 links to it. It says these are all the things that you need to do, and I have personal interest in that too, for development also. So the second thing is, Lindsay's already said, they are already looking at what our commercial business building opportunity, what they are, who owns them, what's going on with them right now, and competing. That's not going to take a lot to put that list together. And we do have this, a stable tax base and a financially sound city government. Residential, different story, okay? So areas of concern, limited residential housing. The housing study that we got done in 2020 demonstrates that, and we talked about that a little bit. And we have wide-ranging housing, everything from mansions in Greenmont to cracker box houses, back on 24th Street, where my kids grew up, okay? So and according to the comprehensive plan, the majority, particularly of our rental houses, pre-1970, okay? But the infrastructure is reported to be there, water, sewer, electric, gas, and so the properties are functioning. More focus on the desired demographics, and that's what I mean by this 1844 cohort that we're talking about as far as people we want in the city of Vienna to help grow our city. 25% of our population in Vienna, 10,000 people, are over 65 years old. A couple of things that, we're aging out, I'm aging out. This council, some of us are aging out, right? Our community is aging out, and we need to replenish our population for that economic prosperity that we want to maintain. City Vienna has decades and decades, of a positive history, being the place to be. And we have so much opportunity here, and the next step is to try to take that to a level that is, in my opinion, unique in West Virginia. We're already a standout community in West Virginia, but to be able to go to the point where it's just a wow factor. So those opportunities, civic stability and safety, the housing, there's work going on in these areas about what potentials are, both existing inventory as well as new development, and the population retention and improvement. A lot of things you can do to support the people that we want in this community. One of the biggest demands is childcare, right? One of the biggest demands is, having the ability people work from home. Well, that means they can work from anywhere. What makes them want to come to Vienna? Those are the things that we want to study. Cultural development, I think this is huge. Opportunity, the areas of concern. Just basically some targeted, what do people want? And I'll come to that in a minute. Underutilization of existing resources. Many things we do so well. Our senior center is busting at the seams. our bus trips, or, the kids' fun, so many things we do well. But what are the other opportunities that drive interest in families and what them to live in? So we've got that, and we have additional resources, hopefully coming online with the development of the riverfront and the other opportunities that we're showing right now. This, I think, is real important. I think that our website or Facebook is just not enough to put on, when we see that, when we try to have a public meeting, we post it on Facebook, like we did River Life Day. City Council showed up, which we appreciate, and then 6 other people, 8 other people, okay? And you can understand that. I always will never forget Roger's, they flip and flip as long as it's flush, right? Okay, and I get that. But if you engage them in things that drive them, motivate, and interest them, I mean, 10,000 people in the city, right? That's a small enough population to engage. We can communicate, we can get involved. But and it's not just a Facebook post. It's going to take a targeted outreach to people who are going to be what? Opinion leaders, who are going to be interested in producing the kind of community environment that we're interested in pursuing. So, I always think there's a catchphrase. I always think there's something that you have to use to get people's attention. So I try to come up with something. It doesn't matter. The matter doesn't catch on, right? So I'm saying the next generation Vienna. This is a little bit of a Renaissance tale. We've got, with the Friends of Vienna book just coming out that counts the history. That's an important part of the culture that people are interested in having, whether you realize it or not. So does this work? Something, okay? So action steps, we have worked, and Chris and Kim have sent information, we've exchanged it back and forth. Lindsay's provided some proposal. I just haven't been persuaded that we have this clear focus, and I'm not satisfied that we do. So what can we do about it? I want to form a focus group that doesn't involve us. This is just like we're dealing with the economic impact study, right? We're not doing that. City Council's not doing that. An outside group that has the expertise to consult with us, advise us, and guide us, and then we make decisions. So I think this is something that needs to come to council, specifically addressing business, these 3 things: residential, culture. Here's who I think needs to be on this committee. I think Lindsay needs to head it up, Jack needs to be on it, and Tony Kiana. Okay? And then it's up to them to say what other resources, who else, how else do they want to engage. Consult with council, stakeholders, department heads, and others that they determine these are the people that we need to engage in order to understand and develop this program that the City of Vienna is telling us you want us to effectuate. Okay? Funding of the costless preparation. I requested in our 23-24 budget $25,000 to develop this concept of city advocacy. I don't expect them to engage in this initial step to come up with this 1-year plan by drafting a proposal that incorporates all 3 of these. It is going to cross boundaries from Lindsay to Jack to Tony as far as grants, residential, recreational, business and commercial. All of them need to be involved. And as far as I'm concerned, number 1, like I said, and I had asked Lindsay and to speak with these others, and 14, she has no idea she's even on this list, but I didn't know until yesterday she's kind of on a retainer for the city. And of course, everybody knows the great work she does, and I think she's just an instrumental part because her grant experience goes well beyond the commercial, like EDA. I'm not going to say the right acronyms, but right. And so I think she's an integral part of it. A couple of examples. Chris told me about a Ascend, West Virginia. I've been enthralled with it ever since it happened, or since he told me about it. And I'm close to done.
You think it's cold?
Please work. There we go.
Enough tab.
So, yeah, jump in.
No, go ahead.
So Ascend West Virginia is a program spearheaded by Brad Smith, who's a phenomenal entrepreneur involved. I don't know exactly how, started up into it, which is a humongous company. Lives in Huntington. And this is an incentive program to say, if you work from home or whatever, we'll give you $12,000 to locate to one of these communities. Right now, it's in North Panhandle, Eastern Panhandle, New River Gorge, Morgantown, and the whole is in right where we are, the west part of West Virginia. And he continues to incorporate new communities into this. What they offer is $12,000 for you to locate to one of these districts. And then they also give you like an adventure package, and they thought, but look at the, if you spend some time on this website, this is what Vienna's presence needs to look like. This quality of work and demonstrating just what's possible, what's available, getting in that Ascend program, and even if we don't get accepted immediately, we can have our own Ascend program, right? We can do our own thing in order to promote this kind of involvement in our community because of what we do have to offer. We have so much potential. Now if I can get back out of this. So in the research that I'd done, one of the things that Chris sent was what Pennsylvania does to promote communities, and it's a monster 350-page dissertation on everything that you can do. And I spent some time with it. I certainly haven't comprehended all of it. But also, the Walton Family Foundation did a study of 503 micropolitans and says what makes them work. Why do they stand out in the United States as just exemplary communities? And it's for different reasons. Like Findlay, Ohio has just done it with light manufacturing, tech, whatever it is they do. Jackson Hole is tourism. Everybody has their niche that they find and then excel. So then there was a writer who distilled that Walton Family Report into 7 habits. And I think a minimum of 6 of the 7, and when Lindsay did their annual meeting, they had a site selection expert to come in to speak about just what goes into considering that. Anybody that saw the other day with the article in the newspaper where Toyota went to the legislature, the state legislature, and said, we got an issue with childcare. We need our production people on the line. They need reliable childcare, and this is a big issue if you want us in West Virginia. And according to the newspaper, they got a lukewarm response. I don't think that's what we needed from them, and I can't really render an opinion because I don't know about it. I just what I read in the paper. But this list. So I think some of you will probably recognize that from Jackson Hole. And here's just kind of a synopsis, different examples. That's Findlay, Ohio. But here they are. Any touchscreen? No. Have a greater awareness of local entrepreneurship and support it. The manufacturing, that kind of stuff. Remember what Parkersburg was like 100 years ago when we had FMC and we had all this huge, it was incredible. If you go look at Mackey's Clock Repair as to what was in Parkersburg 100 years ago, it's incredible. It's not here anymore, it's not coming back. Local entrepreneurship. Work with local community college high schools to encourage entrepreneurship, train people in the skills that major employers demand, which we do have, from your fiscal services to whatever it might be, the plants and so on, stuff Henry does. There's opportunity for our young people. Refine this central value, recognize the importance that arts and museums play. Jack's talking about, the Veterans Museum needs a place, right? Those different things, this book, Trek Vienna, the different things that we do, those things matter to people, all right? And then constantly evaluate that portfolio as a business destination. So really that's it as far as, so as far as the discussion, I just wanted to say this is kind of a culmination in part of what's been discussed, and so what my proposal is we don't have a meeting at the end of December. I don't even know if this is feasible. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I'd like Lindsay. I'm requesting that Lindsay be permitted to work with this group of people that I've mentioned, and anyone else that she thinks, and to take the proposal that she's already provided, incorporate the other areas that at least I'm interested in, and I think other members of council, and really drive home, this is the one-year plan. This is what we want to do in the next 12 months. I still wanted to consider whether the city of Vienna should consider what I call a city advocate. You might want to call it economic development, a planning. Do we continue to outsource it with professional groups like Lindsay's and others? Do we also want to complement that with someone in-house? I want that considered in this 1 year period. But more importantly, the grants in particular, in focused on infrastructure, on the recreation, on whatever, they can come up with that's out there that we can pursue. And also that doesn't attach strings that we don't want to be involved with. Because I know there are certain grants you just don't want to be a part of, but just because of the onus that it puts on the city, and it's not a good fit. So also divorce us from those. So that's what I'd like to see happen. I'd like now basically, now we do discussion part, sorry about that, but I also like for Lindsay and Jack and anybody in the room that has a comment, if mayor will permit it, to discuss maybe what we do from here. But this is kind of where I've landed in the 2 years that I've been thinking about what it's going to take, quite frankly, and selfishly, to keep my kids and kids like them either staying here or coming back. I see people come back all the time. We see it, and the more there is to come back to, the better opportunity for that to happen.
Let me hop in here, because
Lindsay, if you would please, give us an overview of what you do, usually, normally, whatever you want to call it.
I just want to talk to you. I got some different thing to say. Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was talking to Jim.
No, okay. So my office is the Wood County Economic Development Office. Our office, frankly, is kind of a catch-all for things that businesses might need. The pillars of our office focus on marketing and attraction of Wood County. So we are typically the entity who meets with businesses looking to come here, or we go to places to recruit businesses to come here, such as trade shows. The other arm of what we do is business retention and expansion. So we go out to different businesses throughout Wood County, and we meet with them to find out what their opportunities are, what their challenges might be, so on and so forth. So we've dealt with everything from potholes to bats in trees. So one thing that our office has started doing as of last year, which you all generously contributed to along with Wood County and the city of Parkersburg, was the housing assessment. We economic developers in the past traditionally haven't delved into residential, but we see it as a recruiting tool. There are some very large scale projects in the pipeline for Wood County, and honestly, I stay up at night wondering where these people would live if they come here. So that's something that we've started working on as well. I could go on forever. If anyone has questions about what my office does, I'm happy to answer those. We also maintain the county database for the commercial properties. So any land, industrial, retail, restaurant buildings are housed in our database free of charge as an incentive for people to come here and look.
I think one of the advantages to your office is you're not only connected locally, but you're connected with the county, the state, and nationally and internationally. Those are avenues that are not typically open to us. You all have years of experience with everybody higher than us, and that's an advantage that you just don't get that. You've earned that. And so I think that's the advantage that your group brings, because you have a handle on many things that are going on everywhere. And so I think for us, we'd like to be part of a lot of those things. We don't have the manpower to chase it down. We don't have the connections to even get our foot in the door. And that's why I think you all are so valuable.
Woo. I'm going to pass this out real quick.
Not long ago, I spoke about what Jim was talking about. And one of the things that I had asked was, is there a way for people that are looking from an economic development standpoint, go talk to the companies, not the local stores, but chemical companies and so forth? Because we are having a difficult time attracting people to come into this area. And that hits the age group that Jim's talking about, whether it's a new hire out of college or somebody recruiting them to relocate from another rural area or another state. It's very difficult. So what is it going to take? It's almost like you or somebody else to go in and talk to these HR people that are doing the recruiting. What are they hearing from the candidates that they're interviewing or the potential people to come in here as to why they don't want to relocate, whether it's Parkersburg, Vienna, Marietta, or wherever. That's one of the big hurdles that we have.
Finished? Okay,
So I'm not ready for you yet.
all right.
So Jack, you know, you're part of the mix here, all right? You and all of the activities that you have done with not only the Friends of Vienna, but independently with the Forestry Service and all the other opportunities that you have access to. It's just like, you know, the meeting that we had today. You have connections with a lot of people that are out there that have great benefits for us. I think that we're gonna benefit greatly from that meeting that we had today. And so when you, because I know you're retired and all that, but you do have an interest in this kind of stuff. Yeah, okay? And so that's the issue that I have, is the fact that you do all this stuff for us and, you know, you're kind of independent and, you know, I think we need to firm that up some, that, and I'm not saying it's a full-time thing because I know you value your own time, but I think there are certain things that we could definitely use you to be the lead on some of these projects that are floating around. Okay?
Yep.
All right.
Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as Jim mentioned, you know, Chris and Jim and myself have been working collaboratively with this, discussing economic development, and we have a lot of common ground, and then we have some areas where we don't have common ground. And Mr. Leach presented his version of, you know, just how he would like to see this go, and so I just want to take a few minutes to kind of go over some things I've been thinking about that I think that would be beneficial. I didn't know we were going to do this, that there was going to be an economic development discussion, so no PowerPoint deck, but we'll go the old-fashioned way with just paper. The first three things on this list that you see, A, B, and C, these are just kind of a condensed versions of the proposal that Lindsay Pearsall gave us back in July that we've been kicking around. One of the things was focused on new development and redevelopment, and there was an emphasis on the John Mansville property, the downtown business district, you know, where my business is, you know, just the old business district. We talked about seeing some of that area getting blighted. I think, you know, there's some attention that needs to happen there. We also talked about the former OVU property, which now, you know, WVU is closed on. And that property is going to be the home of the new WVUP Technology Center, focusing on technical degrees and providing an incubator space for tech businesses. So that's kind of an interesting opportunity for Vienna. We talked about, we're in a proposal about development, planning, coordination, and implementation. The Wood County Development Authority will work with local, regional, and state partners and city staff to ensure Vienna's economic development activities are aligned with the plans and initiatives. And the Development Authority will help us with grants. I think that's key. We don't take advantage of grants when we should. There are a lot of resources out there for grants, and of course, her office is very well aware of state grants, stuff going on. Her office is a great resource for that. In the states also, there's a website, you know, grants.westvirginia.gov, I think is the URL that has, you can go on there and see all the different grants that are out there. There are recreational grants, there's cultural grants, all that stuff. So you can go and read about it. It's no big secret. The last thing that was discussed in that proposal was stakeholder relations. The Wood County Development Authority would convene a group on behalf of the city to discuss the goals and objectives of development, engagement with key stakeholder groups to align priorities and find, I'm sorry, I'm losing my space here. WCDA would provide documented communications and outcomes with stakeholders, regular progress reports to council, and measurable results. This was a major issue in the past when we had an economic development director. I wasn't on council at that time, but I attended meetings. And one of the biggest things out there was it wasn't measurable. There were no metrics. That was a very frustrating thing with council, because I think, in business, you do something, you want to know what the reward is going to be. You need to be able to measure it. So I think that is key, and Lindsay's team would give us those metrics and stuff that we're looking for. So things would be defined, they'd be tracked and measured. We have something to go with. So for me, I thought about some solutions, some of the things. There are some crossover to what Mr. Leach talked about. First and foremost, I would adopt the proposal. It's not expensive. It's a one-year proposal that she's put together. It would be less than $25,000 or less than $20,000 a quarter. I think council should create an economic development committee, and you identified Jack and Tony Tiana and Lindsay. I think that we can write some legislation around that, just like all of our other committees and commissions, right? What the membership would be, the qualifications, et cetera. To actually have a functioning economic development committee, similar to how we have a planning committee. Once again, those meetings would be open to the public, so the public can kind of get an idea of the things that are happening in Vienna. Members of the Economic Development Committee should have various experiences and backgrounds in business, industry, entrepreneurship, to assist with the formation of economic development goals for the city of Vienna in a structured framework. So work closely with the Wood County Development Authority to align priorities and to find opportunities. Their office is very tuned in to what opportunities are out there for us. Vienna, to establish a Main Street, West Virginia on-track program. So I know some of you probably are familiar with it. Parkersburg has a Main Street program, Marietta has a Main Street program, and Main Street is the singularly most cost-effective program of economic development in America. They've done it for over 40 years. We don't have that. There's no reason why we can't work to get that. Once again, the Main Street program is a community-based approach. So community-based approach to preservation and economic development. There are hundreds of communities across the U.S. using community-based approach model of Main Street. I mean, we see it in, I know Mayor Newell was here and he talked about things that are going on in Ravenswood, and we have Ripley's doing it successfully, Wheeling's doing it successfully, Parkersburg. So, communities all around us are using the Main Street program, and I just feel like we should look into that and see about doing it, because I think it's a great way for us to cost effectively work on our economic development. We talked about the website. Unfortunately, our website is in desperate need of a redesign. I think it was, Lindsay, we were at the country club when your group was, had the page, I can't remember his name, Webster. And he does site development. He looks for sites that people want to develop, businesses want to develop in different communities. One of the first things that he said is people go and investors look on that website. They want to find certain things. They need that information to be accessible. Ours, unfortunately, is not. It's not very user-friendly. It doesn't have a lot of the information on it that people would find helpful, not only people in the business community, but just the community in general. We do a lot of great things here in Vienna, and we're kind of slow to get the word out. And people tell me all the time, it's like, oh, I didn't know you guys were doing it this weekend. I would have come. Well, if we had a better website, that would certainly help with things. So more engagement with the council and the city's various boards and commissions. A lot of what Mr. Leach talked about, for example, you talked about, dilapidated properties, and a lot of that stuff is addressed through the planning commission. So there's, if you do the Venn diagram, there's a lot of overlap. And I don't, the planning commission meets quarterly, and it's, there's usually not very much business unless somebody's going to bring a business in or they need a variance for something or whatever. So, but the planning commission is really not engaged in looking over the ordinances. How can we improve things? What are we missing in ordinances, or what needs to change? I know I attended the last planning commission meeting, which was at the end of October, and there was a lot of discussion about a facade committee, okay? That's great, especially for, helping to keep our central business district looking healthy and, less blight. And so there are a lot of things that are already going on. We're just not interacting with them. And lastly, I'll just say, Vienna is a small community with fewer financial resources for economic development than larger cities such as Parkersburg. By partnering with the Wood County Economic Development Authority and establishing an economic development committee, we can leverage our resources in a cost-effective manner. Vienna could capitalize on the expertise and experience of the Wood County Development Authority and the members of the Economic Development Committee to achieve our goals. So there wouldn't be a cost to that. I think, Mr. Azinger said a while back, there's lots of great business people, retired or otherwise, that live here in Vienna that I think would be a valuable resource that we can get to serve on these committees or to serve on an economic development committee. And then, it's open. We're all kind of rowing in the same direction. My biggest fear about this, and I'll be candid, Mr. Leach and I have talked about this, is that, things kind of just happen behind closed doors. There's not a lot of transparency there. You got, I'm never going to think that that is the best outcome for a city. I don't believe that. He talked about how not very many people attended the thing that we had at Leech Beach. It was on a Friday night at 4 o'clock, 4 to 6. I mean, that's like the worst time. So I don't think that that's a gauge for saying that people don't want to be participating and they don't want the answers or they don't want input. I think we don't do a good job of inviting the public. So I'd like to see that change. And like I said, there's a lot of overlap. If some of these proposals or all these proposals would get adopted, I think that would put us on a much better footing. But the first thing that needs to happen is to go ahead and, accept the proposal from the Development Authority. I think it's a pretty strong proposal. So, anybody have any questions for me?
Russell, do you have a question for Lindsay?
I actually had a question for Lindsay. I'm over here, in front, big guy with a beard.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay.
He's a ventriloquist in his day job.
No, it's, I'm not used to people not seeing me. I take up a lot of space. I'm not asking you as the city attorney of Vienna. I'm asking you as a parent, a father of 2 children, who in 10 years are likely going to be graduating or going off to college and probably leaving. But I know that your group goes out and you recruit businesses at trade shows. And I imagine that you get feedback from those groups. They ask you questions about the community, and then you get feedback from those groups, and that feedback tells you what our, for lack of a better term, shortcomings are. Specifically, and particularly with Vienna, because that's where we are, but in all of Wood County, what are the things, the shortcomings that we have in Wood County that need to be addressed? Because just as a parent, I would think that if we're going to recruit businesses, all of the things that we hear are mechanisms for getting to that. But what are the things that we could actually work on? And then maybe some of those things are City of Vienna things that they could work on. What are you hearing that is why we really loved your town, it's beautiful, but what's the but? What comes after that?
So that's a really good question, and it's kind of multi-pronged. So earlier this year, I had a German prospect come to town. Actually, they came twice, and they looked at a number of sites in Wood County. One of them was one of those weird spots that's in Vienna, but it's not in Vienna, so I'll use this as an example. What their feedback was residential. So their issues relied on where would people live, where would their kids go to school. We've gotten ruled out of a project. This is a totally true story. We got ruled out of a project once because the CEO's son is an ice hockey player, and they asked where the closest ice rink was, and I said Athens, and we got ruled out. So that is a true story. Honestly, I think housing has probably been the biggest issue. I had an international prospect in last week that we took around, showed them different places, apartments and houses. If you remember the housing study, we had 17 vacancies for rentals that didn't even take into account if those were inhabitable or not. So I'll be blunt about this. I showed them Abington Wet. I took them there. They're building some new ones in Boaz. The very nice lady, Eleanor, that showed us the apartment said they're leased before they're even done. So the one that they showed us had long been leased. That is a problem, right? Because this company most likely is coming here, and their issue is one of them, because it's international, has to work through the visa process and won't be able to probably come until summer. And they're already panicked about where that person may or may not be able to live, right? So that's one thing that we really have to fix. I know that this is a kind of a topic that's sensitive for some, but the sports complex issue is something that comes up quite a bit. You can take them to Camden Clark Wellness Center, you can take them to the Y, you can take them to the Elite Center, but there's really not a bigger place that everybody can go at one time. That has come up before. But really where we get rolled out the most on big projects is us having shovel-ready sites. The German company, for example, needed to be on rail. I'll be honest, I showed them some property down off 12th Street in Parkersburg, and the roadway into it was what got us ruled out. They went on and they actually went to Virginia. So different things, but that kind of gives you a general overview.
So it's predominantly lack of housing, lack of, I guess, cultural entertainment activities, and we don't have enough sites that are in close proximity or easy access to rail or the interstate.
Correct. River comes up
River.
sometimes too. Yeah.
So if the city of Vienna could do things to facilitate those, that would make the city of Vienna more attractive to not just the large businesses. I mean, we all can't get a Toyota plant, but maybe a smaller business, a healthcare management, records business, or, some small production, company that makes widgets that go to build something else. So those are the things that Vienna could focus on to make itself more attractive. Ordinances and laws for housing, development of sports complex, and then trying to encourage our local property owners that have space to develop access to river and rail and highway access.
Yes, and again, that was speaking on behalf of the whole county. I know it's gonna be difficult for Vienna to go and get, river and rail access that's readily available. You're a smaller entity. But where you have the big opportunity right now, and Kim mentioned this and Jim mentioned it too, is the former ODU campus. So that property is over 200 acres, blocked in the middle of Vienna. People really want to live in Vienna. You're about to get a new elementary school. That's one reason that I took the people last week to Williamstown, because they want their children going to a new elementary school. That was one of the things that was discussed. So schools are another one that I should have mentioned, but I think we're on the right track there. But, that is such a huge opportunity for Vienna that you get a once-in-a-lifetime chance at, right? So I think it has to be a thoughtful approach as to what you put on that excess property. And for me, I think from my purview, it needs to be a mix of residential, hopefully like some tech-related industry, light manufacturing. And when I say that, I mean no smell, no noise, no smokestacks. People that make widgets would be included in that.
Thank you.
Very good.
We had that same discussion today. No noise, no smell, no, I mean, that's tough. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments before we move on? Jim, thank you for your presentation. Kim, thank you for your remarks. I'm gonna do something right now that's out of sequence because of what someone said. We don't have a council meeting scheduled because it's typically Christmas and we don't usually have one. However, we have an issue that's come up that we're probably going to have a council meeting. Today, I got notification and a phone call from Charleston that the streetscape project went out for bid and it came in really close to what the limit was. And so they're gonna award that contract. And they have 30 days. That's it. We have to sign off on this project within 30 days in order to guarantee the cost. And so, the grant's already been awarded. We've already sent them our share of it. There's going to be a small addendum that has to be done to that because of a contingency fee they require. But in all likelihood, we're probably going to have a very quick council meeting on the 28th, but it doesn't have to be on the 28th. We can literally do it any day, but we have to do it within a 30-day window.
Just do 2 days notice. Pick a day.
So, I mean, we'll reach out, but right now, the 28th would be a scheduled council meeting, and so we may have to come back together in order to do that, because we have to make that 30-day window to guarantee the bid acceptance. So I'll be back in touch with you with that. So let's go back to where we were on the agenda, the update on the swimming pool. Melissa and I have been attending regular meetings with the construction company and all of the subcontractors. The pool is ahead of schedule. Things are moving very well. They've had no delays in any kind of material acquisition. And so right now, things look extremely well. If the weather holds out, we'll make the opening. We've met with other people determining, the management of the pool and what the new rules are and all of that. And so we should be ahead of that process. But everything with the pool so far is very, very good. So, any other comments? Okay, questions on the pool?
Yeah, when you talk about the management, we're looking to contract that out to a management company for pool operations, which includes, obviously, they manage the facility, the mechanicals, quality. They also manage staffing, the lifeguards, and just soup to nuts, concessions, everything?
Yes.
Who are we talking to?
Everybody that's available, look out for bid.
Okay.
Yeah, Russ is working on a draft for that.
Yeah.
It'll be in the newspaper.
So I'd mentioned, trying to look a little bit beyond the conventional pool management and a little bit more of a hospitality component. I'd like to talk about that, so not right now, but, I think we have additional opportunities with the pool as part and parcel of the conversation we've had tonight that I'd like to explore, and maybe as a part of, our conversations with Lindsay. Anyway, so I was just curious.
Yes, they look out for bid, Jim, but yes, there are at least 2 companies that are interested in it, and we'll see. That's the only 2 that we know of in our area.
How many square feet
But
is it?
yes, that'll all be determined.
One of the things we're hoping to avoid is, somebody from Atlanta, wanting to manage our project. large chain of their pool management, and you don't get the kind of custom, you don't get the
Understood.
feedback.
Oh, excuse me.
And I'm just picking on Atlanta because it's the first thing I thought of.
Okay, the last thing on our agenda this evening is the lead and copper survey. That is simply a reminder for everyone, if you have not filled out that lead and copper survey, please do so that we can eliminate your address off of the survey. We're still working on that, and so that's one of the things we need you to do. It's very short. All you have to do is look in your basement or, wherever your water line comes in, see what the material is. That's all.
Do you get a commission for getting the neighbors?
You can have the commission, yeah, they'll get you a cup of coffee at McDonald's.
That's not what I had in
I
mind.
know, imagine that. No, sir, there is no commission, it's just out of the goodness of your heart. All right, that concludes our agenda for this evening. I have a couple of comments that I'd like to make. Saturday morning at 10 o'clock at the Neil Cook Cemetery is the Wreaths Across America ceremony. We honor all the veterans that have, passed and the ones that are currently serving, and we try to teach our young people what it is and what their job and their role was in all of this. So that ceremony will be at the Neil Cook Cemetery at 10 o'clock on Saturday. As I said earlier, the streetscape project will be approved. The bid came in $4,000 over what the grant and our contribution was, so that part of it, and they'll get started on, refurbishing the sidewalks and new lighting and all of that stuff on Grand Central. The last thing is, as we mentioned earlier in the year, the State Department of Highways accepted our bridges into their bridge replacement program, and so we are going to meet tomorrow. They are ready to start, and so they will be rehabbing the bridges in Vienna, and that project is off and running.
They're meeting with, Frank.
And myself. Yeah, and Burgess and Nyepel was selected by the Department of Highways to be the engineering firm, which is really great because they have worked on our bridges for many, many years and know all of the ins and outs as far as the structure and all of that. But we don't have any choice in their decision, but they did choose Burgess and Nyepel. So Matt Llewellyn will be our contact with Burgess and Nyepel, who is very familiar with our bridges, and so that starts tomorrow. So
This construction plan to start sometime well after Christmas.
yeah, there won't be, it'll be, yeah. But at any rate, and that's one of those programs that's 100% funded by the state of West Virginia, so it's good news for us. All right, any other council comments? Yes, sir, Tom?
Since you brought up the Neil Cook Cemetery, I think we ought to have a much better sign on it. There's a lot of history there, I think.
There are soldiers buried in that cemetery from 6 wars, clear back to the Civil War.
I think we have back to the Revolution.
But the sign's not very big.
I know, they did that to match the ambiance of the cemetery, old and, whatever, I agree with you. But that's the reason it was done that way, simply because it is such an old cemetery.
There's no way to enhance it a little
Oh,
bit.
sure, yeah, absolutely.
The banks are starting to let loose some interest on your savings. Do we have all our monies possible to draw as much interest as possible?
Yes, we have a sweep account that, yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right,
I'm just waiting. I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And once again, I want to mention that the city of Vienna, it looked really, really good. And I want to thank everybody who was involved in that. I'm proud to live in Vienna. Christmas time, there are new decorations this year, so there's new stuff to see, and it just looks fantastic. So for everybody who's helped with that, thank you.
all right, if that's it, don't forget to look, we're gonna need to do the council meeting sometime between now and the end of the year, so. All right, with that,